Today. Today is yours. Claim it. This life is yours. Live it. In the claiming of the day, the unimportant fades away. Little details have a way of robbing you of the day. They haunt and tempt you, cause delay, as you strive to live the day. Are you afraid of the unknown? Those trouble seeds that doubt has sown? Face the day that's meant for you. Pass the darkest places through. Learning each day how to live, to the next a promise gives of the best yet to be. Claim it, live it, victory. Hi, my name is Jen Ban. I'm the founder and executive director of Playing for Others, or PFO. I am also a leap year baby, which means I'm 8.5 years old. So my grandfather wrote that poem you just heard on November 11th, 1973. You see, every year on his birthday, he would write and publish a poem. And in the summers, my brothers and I would go to New Jersey and attend a camp that my dad and my grandpa ran together. The end of the day, all the campers gathered around the campfire and could recite one of the poems. Everyone started with today. And here was the really cool thing for us kids, is that if you got it right, my grandpa gave you $1. I used to think that poem was about, carpe diem, seize the day. But now what I know it to be about is possibility. I did a research paper on my grandfather, and here's what I found out. In 1933, he was on the Princeton University campus. And at the same time, Albert Einstein was there. So the story goes that Einstein would be walking around the campus wearing his PJs and his bedroom slippers, and there would be my grandfather right there with him every step of the way, asking questions. Always asking questions. So I hear this and I think, sweet! That must mean that some of his genius transferred to my grandfather, which then got transferred to me. I mean, that's 1 degree of separation. And everyone here, you are now 2 degrees of separation. We're all geniuses. Einstein once said, imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited. Imagination encircles the world. I went to school at Marietta College in Ohio. I got my BFA in theater with an emphasis in children's theater. I lived in a world of imagination. And freshman year, I had one goal. Don't go home for the summer. I mean, I love my parents very much, but I knew that I wanted to do and be something big with my summer. I don't really like to do things small. I like the challenge, the excitement, the feeling of expansion. So I auditioned for a theater touring company, and I applied to work at a camp called the Boggy Creek Camp in Cassia, Florida. And when I got accepted into both, I had to make a decision. Now here's the twist. The camp was for kids with chronic and terminal illnesses. So everybody I talked to said, oh, you don't want to do the camp. You don't want to work with sick, dying kids. That's going to be so sad. But one person said, but what if it were possible? And that person was me. So I dialed down the voices of doubt from others, and I went to camp. It was transformational. It wasn't about sick kids at all. It was about celebration. Dancing after every meal, singing everywhere that you walked, endless hugs and high fives. It wasn't reality, but it was the way reality could be. It was possibility. I remember that first summer, I was working with a little girl who had AIDS, and it was her last night of camp, and she couldn't sleep. She was sad. And whereas you or I might be sad to go home after a magical camp experience, for a little girl who has AIDS, it's a very different reality she's going home to. She's sitting on my lap, we're in a rocking chair, and I'm rocking her, and I'm holding her, just being with her. And she's playing with my wrist. And after a few moments, she looks up at me and she says, why don't you wear an AIDS bracelet like the other counselors? Don't you want to find a cure for me? I wanted to believe that anything is possible, regardless of condition or circumstance. I wanted to put her in my suitcase and take her home with me and shield her from her reality, but I couldn't. So I did what I could with what I had. I took one small action step. I went out the next day, I bought a bracelet, and I haven't taken it off since. Today is yours. Claim it. This life is yours. Live it. Those campers taught me what it meant to live, to say yes to life. In the claiming of the day, the unimportant fades away. I worked at many more camps, had many more life-changing experiences, and at the same time, graduated college and moved to Charlotte. I started working at the Children's Theater of Charlotte. I thought that's what I was supposed to do. You know, create beautiful art, take people on a journey into their imaginations, tell a compelling story that stays with you long after the curtain drops. And I loved it. But soon the pull of camp started happening, and the voice of my grandfather came back. Little details have a way of robbing you of the day. They haunt and tempt you, cause delay as you strive to live the day. Are you afraid of the unknown? Those trouble seeds that doubt has sown? So this time, I went to a camp called Victory Junction in Randleman, North Carolina. And what would happen there would alter the course of not only my life, but ultimately thousands of teens. I had worked with kids with cancer, HIV, sickle cell, rheumatoid arthritis, heart and kidney disease, the list goes on and on. But the last week of this camp was for burn survivors. I had never experienced anything like it. It is so hard. It's painful, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And I really connected with these 3 teenage boys. You see, most of the kids on camp had been intentionally burned by family members. So it's the last night, and they start telling me their story. And in the moment, I think, I can't imagine this. This I can't imagine. And then one of them said, what if we could take what happened to us and use it to inspire someone else? What if it were possible? It was 2 or 3 in the morning. They went to bed. I start walking around the camp. I can't sleep. My head is spinning. I'm thinking to myself, what am I doing with my life? Is there something more for me? Is something greater seeking to emerge? And then like a bolt of possibility lightning, it hits me. I'll do playing for others. I'll get a bunch of kids together. We'll direct a show and raise a bunch of money and give it to somebody else. You know, take teens or tell teens, teach teens. You could take what you're passionate about and use it to benefit the greater good. How cool is that, right? One-time volunteer project, raise a little money, make a little difference. But remember how I said I don't like to do things small? Face the day that's meant for you. Pass the darkest places through. So I got back to Charlotte. I emailed a bunch of kids I'd worked with and said, I have this idea, and if you want to hear more about it, meet me at Freedom Park Sunday at 2. That was September 10th, 2006. And I'm thinking, a few kids will show up, we'll bounce around some ideas. I had no idea I was about to take a leap. I show up, and there's almost 100 teens and parents there waiting to hear what I had to say. I remember standing up there across from the band shelter at Freedom Park, and it is so hot. I am dripping sweat, and I'm just talking. And I'm saying, we're going to do this thing, and I'm going to direct this show, and it's going to be your good man, Charlie Brown. We're going to donate the money to Lifespan, and the goal is to raise $5,000. I had no idea how. I had no clue. But I also didn't know then that you don't have to know the how. The how will reveal itself. Imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited. Imagination encircles the world. It's the imagination, the possibility, and the courage to do it. Thank you, Uncle E. So that first year happened, and we donated a check, not for $5,000, but for $22,426.47, a number I will never forget. And I thought, awesome, I'm done. Sweet, check it off the list. But a couple parents had a different idea and said, you have to do it at least one more year. Learning each day how to live. To the next, a promise gives. I could imagine it, you know? Like I knew it was possible. I didn't know how, but I knew it was possible. So year 2 happened, and we added the buddy program where teens pair up with a child with a disability and develop a year-long relationship, recognizing that people are people are people. And year 3, we added another arts experience, and the committees that the teens served on got bigger, and the whole thing is catching on like wildfire. And I received the first of 2 pivotal phone calls. And the first was from Mitzi Corrigan, who ran a nonprofit called Emma's Gifts. And she called me, standing on my back deck, and she says, I want to offer nonprofit status, Emma's Gifts nonprofit status, to Playing for Others. We would merge and change the name. What do you think? And I think, what is nonprofit status? What does tax deductible even mean? And am I ready? But I didn't ask the how. I didn't say all that to her. Instead, I said, okay, let's do it. So here I am. I'm working full-time at the Children's Theater. I'm running Playing for Others full-time on the side and not getting paid. And I decide I need to go back to camp. So this time, I go to Southampton, New York, at a camp for kids specifically with disabilities. And I'm working with teenage girls. And they are funny and full of life, and they've got this like New York attitude, and I love them. And I get the second of the 2 pivotal phone calls. And this one is from Susan Ehrman, who was our current board chair at the time. She called and she said, we want to hire you full-time as the executive director. I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to be an executive director. I was 27 years old. That's 6 3/4 in leap years. But here's what's crazy. They didn't care. The deal was I had to leave Children's Theater, the place I had spent the last 6 years building my career, work from home by myself with very little pay, and figure it out. I was tempted and conflicted. So that night, we're putting the girls to bed, and I'm laying on a bunk with Katie Fasano, and I'm telling her my dilemma. Katie, here's the deal. There's this thing I thought I was supposed to do, and this other thing I have no idea how to do, and what if I fail? And Katie is smart and beautiful and happens to have cerebral palsy. And she rolls over to face me, and I roll over to face her, and we're 6 inches from each other's face. And she says the most profound thing. She looked at me, like really looked at me. And she said, you know what I say, Jen? If you're gonna jump, you might as well leap. And like it was the easiest decision in the world, I leapt. So here we are, 5 years later. There are 84 teens currently in the program, 97 alumni teens all over the world. We've impacted 200 children with disabilities and their siblings, donated $96,000 back into the nonprofit community of Charlotte, and touched 97 nonprofits through the giving of our time, talent, and treasure. And we are just getting started. We went from good to great, because that's it. When you jump, you get to good. But when you leap, you get to great. And over and over and over again, I find myself at the same crossroads. And the path of doubt is over here, and the path of possibility is over here. And these voices are saying, come this way. It's safe, it's predictable, and it's easy. And these voices are saying, but this is challenging and exciting and expansive. And the voices get all mixed up, and I have to stop and ask myself the 2 most important questions we can ask ourselves in our lifetime. Who am I? And how will I give of that the same two questions we ask our teens. So who am I? I am passionate. I am driven. I am kind. I am whoever I say I am. And it's not just what I do, it's who I be. And who I be is how I show up when I'm with you. And how will I give of that? I'll give you exactly what I already have in me. Kindness, love, compassion, authenticity, vulnerability. I'll give you all of that, plus my time, my talent, and my treasure. I mean, can you imagine it? Is it possible? Would the social impact on this world leap to a whole new level if we simply stopped and started asking ourselves the questions, who am I and how will I give of that? It's courageous, it's transformative, and it's genius. Einstein genius. I was 13 when my grandfather passed away, and I remember sitting in the church for the celebration of life, not a funeral. Classic grandpa. And halfway through the service, the oldest grandchild got up and recited today. And I remember sitting there with tears streaming down my face because I missed him. And I look around, and everyone is mouthing the words. I never got to ask my grandfather to answer those two questions. Who am I and how will I give of that? But I think if I did, he would say, I am courageous, I am compassionate, and I am a genius. And how will I give of that? I will plant the seed of possibility in you so that if you're going to jump, you might as well leap. So, Grandpa, I know you'd want me to share this message. Today is yours. Claim it. This life is yours. Live it. In the claiming of the day, the unimportant fades away. Little details have a way of robbing you of the day. They haunt and tempt you, cause delay as you strive to live the day. Are you afraid of the unknown? Those trouble seeds that doubt has sown? Face the day that's meant for you. Pass the darkest places through. Learning each day how to live. To the next a promise gives of the best yet to be. Claim it, live it, victory. Thank you.